it has made for a happier and peaceful marriage. And I'm speaking from someone who once didn't live this way. Hello, beautiful. Welcome back to Gems and Pearls with Love. I want to start off by thanking those of you who took the time to vote on the poll that I made here on YouTube on the community tab. I appreciate that so much. There is so much that I want to talk to you guys about, but I was a little bit stuck trying to figure out what should my next video be. So I had made a poll here and gave you guys a few different options, and you guys voted. So to those who did that, thank you so much. Majority rules, which leads to the topic of today's video, which is gender roles in my marriage. So my husband and I do implement traditional, or I would prefer to say biblical, gender roles in our marriage. All right, you may be wondering, what does that practically look like? Firstly, we believe that it is my husband's responsibility as the man of the house to lead, to provide, and to protect. And we believe that it is my responsibility as the wife, as the lady of the house, to nurture and care for the home, especially and in particularly those who are in the home, but of course the home in of itself, upkeeping and managing the home, which practically would be making sure we have meals that are cooked and making sure the house is kept clean and orderly. I just wanted to give a little quick disclaimer. In this video, I am talking about what my husband and I choose to do in our home, in our family life. I am not at all saying that this is what you must do, or this is what everybody else should be doing. This is me just saying this is what my husband and I have chosen to do based on our beliefs and what works for us. When we are talking about gender roles, I find that a lot of people usually jump to this assumption and conclusion that because we say that there are different things that we are responsible for, that ultimately means that there cannot be any crossover whatsoever. That is definitely not true, at least not in my home. Yes, my husband is responsible for providing for his family, which obviously means providing financially, of course. But that does not mean that I am not allowed to contribute financially. What it does mean, however, is that I am not responsible for that. If there is a lack when it comes to our finances, it's okay for me to do something, get a part-time job, a full-time job if necessary, have an at-home business like what I actually currently am doing. That's okay. That's fine for me to do it. However, it is not something that is expected or required of me. As I've said already a few times, my husband and I, we have a family business. And to be honest, he does most of the hands-on things in terms of like dealing with customers, etc. But there are things that I do to help with that family business. Matter of fact, because we make custom shirts, custom mugs, etc., I'm the one that actually physically makes those things. So that is me helping to contribute financially. I also have a little baking business where I bake things and sell it. The thing is, especially when it comes to my baking business in particular, my husband sees everything that I make from that like as mine. So he doesn't expect me to take that money from that business that I make and go and like pay the bills, or to use that money to go and buy groceries or anything when it comes to the house as a whole. Now, don't get me wrong. I may just do that because I want to. I just want to help. I want to do that. But he doesn't expect it of me. It's not something that is required of me. My husband sees that, like, the money that I make from that as mine to do as with whatever I wish, because it's not something that he depends on. Again, doesn't mean I'm not going to do those things because I'm not a selfish person, so therefore I want to spend my money on things in the home, maybe some decorations or something for the kids, something for my husband, etc. It's just that because it has already been predetermined that it is not my role and my responsibility to provide financially for the home, it is not expected of me. So therefore, if I do not, there are no ill feelings. If there's lack, he's not something where he looked at me and say, hey, you're not doing your part, because it is already determined that it is not my responsibility. Likewise, because it is my responsibility as his wife and as a homemaker to see to it that the house is clean and orderly and to see that meals are made, does not mean that my husband can never help with any cleaning or help with cooking a meal. Matter of fact, my husband loves cooking. At one point in time when he was a lot younger, he wanted to be a chef. So because he loves cooking, usually, especially every Sunday, he cooks dinner. So it is not a situation where it's like he can never cook a meal. And because my husband is a very caring and loving person, if I'm in a situation where I'm in pain, maybe it's my monthly time and I'm having horrible cramps, or if I am just sick, if I'm just maybe overwhelmed, like going through a really hard time for whatever particular reason, or even when I was pregnant with my children, and obviously that comes with a lot of physical changes and challenges, my husband will step in and he will put a load of laundry on the wash and he will help to do whatever needs to be done in the house. He doesn't have a mindset that because it's my responsibility, it means that he can never help or he can never lift a finger. But like with my previous example when I talked about providing, it is not something that is required or expected. So because there is not that expectation of it or me feeling like I'm entitled to it, when it's not done, when he decides to come home and just put his foot up and relax for the whole evening and get his dinner served and not help to clean up or whatever the case is, there is no feelings of bitterness, there's no anger, there's not any of that, because I understand my role and I don't expect him to do it. If he does, great, awesome. And as I have said, there have been many times where he has stepped in and done things, especially when it comes to cooking, because he loves to do it. But when it comes to him being expected to, or me, feeling that like you have to pull your weight when it comes to this, it's not there. That expectation is not there because it is known and predetermined that this is my responsibility. When my husband does something like sweep the floor or, I don't know, put laundry on, whatever the case is, which doesn't happen very often, but if he does do that, I appreciate the help. I just don't necessarily look for it. And I know that in of itself, me saying the help is can trigger some people because they have this mindset of he lives here too, he makes the meals too, he eats too, so it's his clothes that's in the laundry. So what do you mean help? Like it's his help? Like, I know, but this is the thing. This is why it is traditional or biblical gender roles that we don't see it that way, right? Just as he doesn't see, if I decide to do something to contribute to the home financially, he sees it as me helping. It's the same way as when he contributes to the home and the domestic things that need to be done in the home, I see that as helping. And you know what? I honestly love and appreciate the gender roles that my husband and I keep to. It has made for a happier and peaceful marriage. And I'm speaking from someone who once didn't live this way. All right. I lived as most modern, typical kind of people where, it's expected for him to do this or expected for him to do that or whatever the case is. And expected for me to go out and also provide financially. So as a matter of fact, it's kind of funny because even when I was a stay-at-home mom, I still kind of felt that he should contribute to what's going on in the home. And I look at that and I kind of find it a little silly now, because it's like, I don't even go to work, he does. So why would I not take on those responsibilities knowing that he's at work for however many hours? Why should I expect him to come home now and do that? Don't get me wrong. When I'm at home, I'm not sitting on my butt all day. So there's a lot to get done, and it can be tiring and it can be exhausting. Which, as I said, is why I'm grateful for the fact that there are times that he helps, but it's good to know, like, it just creates, having this order creates this sense of like peace, and just knowing that we're both different pieces of the puzzle, and we both have our roles to play. So because we know that and we do that, it creates this harmony. And honestly, I would really want it no other way. My husband's role as a leader, because it is understood between us both that he has been placed by God as the head of the house, there is no misunderstanding when it comes to who is responsible to make the ultimate decisions in the home, like especially the big decisions in the home. And I say big decisions because as manager of the home, there are some little small things that I kind of decide on my own. There's not every little detail. I don't need to go to him and be like, hey, I'm going to switch around the schedule and I'm going to do my work time at 3 o'clock instead of 2. Like, he doesn't need to, like, honestly, I discussed that with him just for the sake of it, because, we had that friendship and we talk about things, but it's not like every little thing that I need to go to him about, because he has entrusted me with that responsibility. But when it comes to the bigger decisions that are really going to affect the home and how it's run as a whole, we discuss everything. And he always wants to hear me out. He wants to hear my opinions, my views. I just find it kind of sad and a little silly that it's assumed when somebody even says that they're a submissive wife that automatically they have no mind of their own. They can't have no opinions. They just have to be this mute person and just follow everything he does or he says. That's not the picture. That's really not. That's definitely not is for in my home, and I know it's not for a lot of other women. Every decision that needs to be made in the home, we talk about it, we discuss it. Here he hears me out, and if he finds that there's a lot of wisdom in what I am saying, and he sees that, then he goes with whatever that I suggest. However, if it comes down to the fact that he heard me out and he still feels that what he is saying is the right thing, there is no question. We know that he's the one that is making the ultimate decision that I submit to and that I respect. We don't need to have an argument where I'm like, oh, you need to listen to me, and what about what I'm saying? Like, we don't need to have those arguments. We already know. I say my piece, and then I trust God with the rest for him to make that decision. As a homemaker and the manager of my home, it's funny because I always like to say that I'm the manager, my husband's the CEO. But anyways, it is my responsibility to oversee that things are done orderly and run smoothly in the home. But sometimes I think that it's assumed that we as homemakers have to literally do everything on our own, and that's not true. Especially if you have children, when they get to a certain age, they are able to do certain things. They're able to have chores. And part of being a manager of a home, if you think about it, a manager of a store doesn't do every single thing themselves. They delegate. And that is what we do as well as homemakers, as manager of our home. We delegate. There are responsibilities that my children have to make sure to keep the house clean, to do certain things. So whether it's that, you have older children, if you do, please do not have them sit on their butt all day when they can pick up a broom and sweep the floor, or they can wipe off the counter. Okay? Like, don't think that means that you have to be here doing everything yourself. Now, don't get me wrong. There was a season in my life that I did, because my children were really small, I did have to do basically everything on my own. But now that I have older children, one of them actually turning 14, one that just turned 12, and then I have a 10-year-old, they are able to do quite a bit of stuff, and they, as children, people who also in the home and make the mess, they also have responsibility to do. And you know what? If you can afford to have somebody come in and clean the house once a month or once a week or whatever the case is, and that's something that your husband is in agreement with, I would say go ahead and do it. That does not take away from you from being a homemaker. A homemaker does not only mean cooking, cleaning, etc. That is actually really a small part of it, to be honest. A lot of it is spiritual things. A lot of it is creating an atmosphere. A lot of it is nurturing. A lot of it is being present. So please do never feel guilty or feel bad for delegating some of your responsibilities, or even hiring someone that is able to help you in certain seasons of your life. So ladies, please just don't ever feel like you have to do everything all on your own. I know sometimes in some seasons, in some situations, we may kind of just have to do that, and God will strengthen us. But if you have other options, I would definitely recommend go ahead and taking those options, okay? Anyways, that is a topic that I will be talking about another time in a future video. So make sure you subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss that. Until next time, bye-bye.